after the found footage filmmaking workshop yesterday with Claudi. Today we are with Larno with the FilmAI workshop, and we will be continuing in the afternoon with some practical works and we'll be looking at your found footage projects as well. And just to remind, we will be at the last day of our workshop with a panel and a screening of your films for tomorrow. As a reminder, we are expecting you to give your films to Dr. Önder at least by 10 for tomorrow. Yarın saat 10'da en geç filmlerinizin kopyalarını Doktor Önder Özdem'e vermeniz gerektiğini hatırlatmak isterim. Today we are going to be with Larno for FilmAI editing with artificial intelligence workshop. And the program is just like this. We will be giving the lunch break like this. And then we will continue by 1 o'clock for a practical work, then have a coffee break, and we'll be looking at your projects and for your mentoring as well. We know Larno from tomorrow. Yesterday, he is a specialist in 3D modeling, and then he is so much experienced by working with artificial intelligence and have been giving lectures in various companies, universities, and so happy to have him here. Thanks, Larno, for accepting our invitation again. And we have a new name here. Alp Teper is also here today with us. He is from Estonian National Film Archive, and he will be supporting us for the panel tomorrow. But he is also an expert in creative works, a photograph artist, and have been working in different fields of filmmaking. So happy to have you here, and welcome up. And from yesterday, as you all know, Claudi and Daria are here today with us as well. And I'm leaving the words to Larno for the very interesting, and we are so excited to hear, to share your experiences. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. So first of all, thank you, everyone, for inviting me here. So today we're going to talk about AI in video editing. And there are a lot of ways you can use AI in video editing, and AI is this really broad term. So the first thing I want to do is really demystify artificial intelligence. So this is like this term that's used in the news a lot. And you hear this term thrown around everywhere, but I want to give you a bit of an idea about what AI is, how it works, what the different types of models are that you can have in artificial intelligence, and then also what type of tools you can use. And when I'm talking about AI tools in this presentation, there are 3 types of tools that I'm going to talk about. The first one is tools that are already available for you to use, and they are completely free to use as well. So you can start using them this afternoon if you want. Then there are the second types of tools, which are already also available widely, but you have to pay a little bit for them, and some of them have free trials, and we will use them in the exercises this afternoon as well. And then the third one is the tools that will be available in the future. So if you understand the parameters involved in artificial intelligence, if you understand about the data and how the models work, from that understanding about the parameters, you're able to sort of predict the future about what AI models are going to become out in the near future. And some of these tools will also be tools that maybe are already available in Hollywood or in very large companies, but they are not available to the public at large yet. And what you will also notice is with these parameters that keep increasing over time, so for instance the data and the computational power that is used in artificial intelligence, everything that's not available yet or almost available will become free as time moves on, because computational power and data will all become cheaper over time as these models also become more powerful. And then also the things that are currently available at a low price, you can probably predict that in half a year or in a year they will be completely free for everyone. So that's a nice prospect to have. So with that said, what are we going to talk about in this presentation? First, we're going to talk about what is AI, as I said, the types of artificial intelligence. We're going to look at generative AI, which is of course what all the hype this past year has been about, with ChatGPT coming out on the 30th of November. It's already a year old at this point. And that's where really the hype around AI broke loose. And then a little bit before ChatGPT, there also was the Stable Diffusion model. That is also, of course, a very known part of generative AI. Then we're going to talk about AI in video production. So we're going to talk about production, about editing, and about actually generating video footage as well. And then we're going to look at the future of video production. Then in the afternoon, or depending on how long the presentation will last, maybe we'll do a little bit of this in this session, this first 2-hour session. We're going to talk about the Adobe AI tools. We're going to look at video generation exercises. There will be 3 exercises, and if you have time, we can do all 3 of them, and otherwise you can pick one of them to actually already use AI to generate your own projects. And then I'm also going to talk a little bit about shorts. So of course this is like a more high-level film setting, but the more consumer side of video is also a reality. So the shorts are where really all of the attention are, and if you want to reach a younger audience, for instance, the shorts, the TikTok, all of this stuff is really important to get your work out there in the world. And then there's also a discussion option. Depending on the time, we can have a nice discussion about AI and the future of jobs. So what is AI going to mean for you once you enter the working life? And some of you, of course, already are working. So how is it going to impact your jobs? So my picture is there on the left, and you can't see it right now. I'm not sure why, but so now you only see the AI-generated version of me. So let's start with a little introduction of who I am. Why can I talk about AI? So I started studying at university in the Netherlands. So I'm from the Netherlands, from Eindhoven, and I started studying industrial design. And in industrial design, I already started using video editing quite a bit, with mostly promotional videos, pitches, product videos, that sort of stuff. And then I started to sort of dislike the sort of academic side of industrial design, where I didn't really like that all your project had to fit a certain mold, and sort of where the funding went. That's the sort of arguments you had to make to get a nice grade. So I wanted to do something a little bit more technical, and then I started doing the Masters of Innovation Management for my master's degree. And actually, I'm still a student right now, but in 2 weeks I will be graduated, hopefully. So yeah, right now I'm still a student. And then next to my study, I also always been sort of a little bit more entrepreneurial. So I started when I was 20 years old. I'm from Eindhoven. It's called the City of Light, because Philips was founded there. And so I started a lamp company. I started creating these laser cut lamps, and the lamps were very beautiful, everyone said, but I wasn't any good at marketing and all the business aspect of it. So the company failed a little bit. But from that experience, I learned how to do 3D modeling very well. So I started doing laser cutting and 3D design and 3D modeling for all of those. And so my second entrepreneurial venture was to create courses about that, to teach other people how to do it. And then I started creating some courses that went pretty well. And then when the whole hype around artificial intelligence broke loose, then I started making courses about that. So during COVID, I started doing an online bachelor's of psychology, and so I was always doing the industrial design and the entrepreneurial aspect of that I really liked, but at the side I had this passion about psychology. And what I found most interesting about psychology is the question about intelligence and consciousness, and then that of course links very nicely to artificial intelligence. So I really like the philosophical side of it, where the question is, are we able to build actual intelligence? And then when ChatGPT came out, of course, that question rose to the fore of everyone. So everyone started thinking about this, whoa, is this real intelligence, or is this just some prediction machine, which we will also talk about a little bit. So then I started making courses about artificial intelligence, and then through some random events, some random opportunities I got to also talk at businesses, and I started giving workshops at ChatGPT and generative AI in general, and that's how I basically ended up here. Oh, there we go. So let's talk about artificial intelligence. Let's start with a quote from our good friend Sundar Pichai. So he says, artificial intelligence will have a more profound impact on humanity than fire, electricity, and the internet. And this is a pretty bold statement. So if you say it's more powerful than the fire, for instance, fire is one of the things that really enhance human evolution. And people like Elon Musk, for instance, they will say that artificial intelligence will do the same thing for us if we implement it in our brain and we merge with it. How is that going to affect human evolution? And the internet, for instance, is the human being before the internet is a completely different human being than the human being after the internet. And one of the things that makes the internet so powerful is that you have access to the full knowledge, the full body of knowledge of human history. But with something like ChatGPT, you're able to talk to the full human knowledge of human history. So there's no way to really predict right now how this is going to change the future, how this is going to change humanity and the trajectory of human evolution. Only time will tell that. So now let's look at another quote that's been repeated ad nauseum by every single AI influencer and every single AI speaker this past year. And it's about AI and jobs. So it says, you will not be replaced by AI, you will be replaced by someone using AI. So typically when this is presented, it's said as something like an optimistic view. So AI is not a scary thing, this autonomous robot that's going to replace you and you will just be left standing there while the machine is doing your work. What this is saying is if you don't ignore AI, if you don't have your blindfolds on and you actually engage with it, then you're not going to be replaced. But if you are going to put on the blindfolds and you say, I don't need this stuff, then someone else using AI is going to be more competitive than you. They are going to have some sort of a competitive advantage that eventually may lead to you being replaced by AI. And I think this is going to depend on the type of job you do, how high your expertise is. So also something that's often said is that it's basically going to even the waters a little bit. So normal people are going to be able to do some of the things that usually only experts were able to do, but experts are going to be able to use AI in a far more advanced way. So it's basically going to raise all the water and it's going to raise all the boats with it. And I think you all believe this as well, because that's why we are all here. So we all want to start using AI and we want to see how we can incorporate it in our workflows and to become more powerful and productive with it. So let's talk about what is, wait, can I get this bar away? Nice. So let's talk about what is artificial intelligence. This may be the view some of you have about artificial intelligence, maybe the scary Terminator robot or the cute Wall-E robot, but this is not where we are just yet. So let me give you some examples of where we are already with artificial intelligence. So in 1997 already, the computer started to become a little bit smarter than human beings. So Deep Blue beat Garry Kasparov in his famous game of chess. And this was the first moment when in the public consciousness, artificial intelligence started to become a thing, where people started to think, all right, this may actually be something. But of course, this was a chess computer, and while it would be able to beat you at chess, it wouldn't be able to fold your laundry or do your dishes or something like that. So people weren't too scared about it. So then we have autonomous cars, which maybe you have a Tesla, or maybe at the traffic light you're taken in by a Tesla like I am. But this is really one of the transformational pieces of artificial intelligence that we see today. So Tesla, for instance, people may not think about it as an artificial intelligence company, but that's what it is. So it has this electric car component to it too, and maybe some people say it's actually a battery company, it's not a car company, but actually I think it's an artificial intelligence company, not a car company. Because the AI of Tesla is one of the most advanced artificial intelligence that are out there. So it's able to actually perceive the world and act in it. And that's actually a problem that's maybe philosophically and psychologically, it's extremely difficult to do that. We humans do it without even thinking about it. I can just walk through this door, but to perceive this room in such a way that you're able to act in it, that's actually a completely very difficult engineering problem. And you can also see the transformative aspect of this. Like, who knows how many hours humanity as a collective spends on traveling. And if that would be autonomous, that would completely change how humans live and how we work. There we go. So then also we have the social media algorithms. Maybe you know some people, of course no one in this room, but maybe you know some people who spend hours a day scrolling on their phone, and they don't laugh even, they look a little bit sad while they do it. But this is the power of these social media algorithms. It's this artificial intelligence that's created by these huge companies like Facebook, like TikTok actually, like Google. And they create these algorithms specifically tasked to capture your attention. So it sort of tells you a little bit about how AI works. So AI doesn't really have like this intelligence that we think of, because when we think of intelligence, often we think about what is good. So if you're intelligent at keeping people on the app, you would want, from a human perspective, you would want them to have a good time. But from the computer perspective, they don't care how you feel while you do it. They just want your eyes on the screen. And so for instance, they found out that an angry person is more easy to keep engaged than a normal feeling person. So often the first few videos will get you in some sort of an emotional state, so that after that they're better able to predict which videos will keep you engaged on the platform, which is going to have really destructive, and I think we see it already, effects on society. And then also to make it a little bit more scary, if it wasn't scary enough, so there's also mind reading. So first off, Elon Musk is working on Neuralink, which some of you are probably familiar with. And on the left right there, you see a monkey playing Pong with his brain. A monkey playing Pong with his brain. So he is, thought maybe I repeat it. So he is looking at the screen. It's a monkey, so monkeys don't even know how to play Pong in a normal situation. But this monkey learned how to play Pong with his brain. Maybe the third time I'll say it. So actually he's moving the thing, and he has this tube in his mouth where he gets a banana smoothie. And so he's moving the thing with his brain, and he gets a banana smoothie every time that he hits a ball correctly. So, and then on the right there, you see on the top there's pictures, and on the bottom there is what was read out of the mind of the person. So they put a scanner on the human brain, they showed them the picture, and they generated those images. And as you can see, they are pretty close, and they're also doing some experiments with dream reading. So when you're having a dream, you see all sorts of things with the same brain regions that you use when you look at. Yes, go ahead.
Which row is the generated ones?
So on the top right, you have these two rows. The top row is the picture that the human saw, and the row below that is what was generated by the AI. So you can see it's pretty close. It's not perfect, but it's really getting there. And as I said, there's also dream reading that's happening right now in hospitals, where they actually use the same sort of methods to see what you're dreaming. So now that you're all a little bit scared, let's try to demystify it. Let's try to look at it from a nicer point of view, from what it's actually doing. So what is artificial intelligence? So you have artificial and you have intelligence. Artificial just means humans made it. So if it's made by humans, it is artificial. Intelligence is more difficult to define. If I ask 100 people what is intelligence, you're going to get 100 different answers. But we can simplify the explanation by saying intelligence is something that is that can do something that humans are also able to do with our intelligence. So basically a simple definition. So artificial intelligence is something created by humans that can do something that is commonly associated with human intelligence. So in that sense, a calculator is artificial intelligence. It's artificial and can do something human intelligence can do, which is addition, subtraction, this sort of thing. And actually, that's not really what we are talking about when we hear about AI on the news. So, for instance, that image is AI generated, as you can see by the 6 fingers that it has. So what are we talking about when we talk about artificial intelligence on the news? Typically, it's a subfield of artificial...
Did you give the prompt for 6 fingers?
No, I didn't. So that's actually interesting. So artificial intelligence used to be really bad at giving the right amount of fingers. So whenever it would generate a hand, it would do 4 or 6 fingers, something, sometimes even 7. And also the face would often be a little bit weird, but that's all fixed now. So now if you ask for a hand, you're going to get a perfect 5-finger hand. So also, by the way, I didn't say this at the start, but please feel free to interrupt with any question. I liked the questions a lot. So what are we talking about when we talk about artificial intelligence? Typically, it's a subfield of artificial intelligence, which is machine learning. So machine learning is artificial because it's a model that's created by humans, and it's intelligence because it is doing something that's typically associated with intelligence or human intelligence, which is learning. So humans are able to take in information from the world through our senses and then use that to update our beliefs about the world or make predictions about the world. For instance, I know that if I do this, I'm going to land. That's a prediction. Maybe it wouldn't happen, maybe the ground would fall away, but based on my experience and my senses, I know that I can make that prediction. And that's also what machine learning is able to do. So machine learning works with big data. So you heard this term maybe a bunch of times about big data. And big data is basically data that is so complex and so large that normal statistical methods don't really apply to it anymore. It's not, humans aren't able to conceive of what sort of statistical techniques would give the answers that we are looking for. So then we need this machine learning to make sense of this data. So it makes predictions about this data, and you could say that it's some sort of an advanced form of statistics. So in traditional statistics, here we go. I'm not sure if anyone here ever took a statistics class. A few people. So I'll explain this a little bit. So typically in statistics, you have sort of these mathematical models or these models that we know a lot of data applies to. So one of these models is the normal distribution. So if you have 100 people and you measure their height and you plot the height, you're going to get this nice bell curve, as you see on the bottom right there. And it's basically going to say that a lot of people are in the center, a lot of people are, I think men are 180 and women are a little bit less. So you have this normal distribution with the average length in the middle. And then the further you are away from that average, the less likely it's going to be. So the height of the curve is basically going to say the likelihood of it. So then if you have a person, for instance, who's 2.50 meters, you're able to use this model to say what the probability is of that. So that's traditional statistics. You have an existing model and you put new data in the existing model and you get a prediction out of it. Machine learning works a little bit different. So because the data is so complex, you don't have the existing model. You have to build the model yourself. And that is what machine learning does. So you have the large amount of data, you put it in the machine learning model, and you get a trained model. So this trained model is able to make predictions about the type of data that was fed into it. And then if you have new data, you are able to use this trained machine learning model to get a prediction. So some examples.
Can we say machine learning is controllable, but AI is not?
I think maybe you're talking about deep learning then. If you're talking about the more black box aspect of AI, or...
I mean, we control the input in machine learning,
yep.
But in most of AI models have connection to internet and take data from internet, and I think that was AutoGPT. Right?
Yep.
AutoGPT can make their own comments,
Mm-hmm.
and they continue to working. But I think I use the Azure Machine Learning, Microsoft. If I give Azure Machine Learning I don't know, 1 gigabyte information, that's all.
Yep. That's actually...
That's what's going on. But AI is more progressive, right?
No, I think the way I'm trying to explain it is AI is all of these things, and what you're talking about with AutoGPT, it's actually a trained model, so it's trained one time, and it doesn't use any more data to train it. It's able to use different data to make some edits, but that's not part of the actual AI of the model. So that's like a software layer that's built on top of it.
Oh.
So the actual model is just like, I think it was a GPT-3 model.
Yes.
Yeah. So the GPT-3 model works like this. So it's trained one time, and then it's able to make predictions, and a prediction is the next word it's going to predict every time. That's how the GPT models work. So yeah, I think this does apply to all of AI. And maybe another aspect of that is deep learning. So with deep learning, it's able to take a lot of different data, and you don't really have to structure the data the way you have with normal machine learning. So that's yeah. So here an example of machine learning. So the input data, so for instance, the spam detection. So with spam detection for emails, for your inbox, all your inboxes have some sort of an AI that filters the whether it's spam or it's not spam. And the way this works is you have many emails, so millions of emails, and then a human places a label on it saying it is spam or it is not spam. And then it's able to take all of this data in, and then it's able to predict with a new email whether it is spam or not spam based on the similarities with the spam emails or the non-spam emails. And then it's going to make a prediction if it's spam. And this is my first example because everyone knows that spam detectors are flawed. So often you have real emails that come in your spam, and you have spam emails that come in your real inbox. So this is with every single AI. It always works with predictions. You never have 100% ground truth. It always works with predictions. So that also means you can't 100% rely on any sort of AI model. It's always going to be a prediction, similar to statistics. So then another example, cat detection, which is one of the first large-scale image detectors that were built. It was actually a cat detector. And here you have millions of photos, and some of the photos are cats, and then it has the label cat, similar with the emails. And then it's able to take in a picture of a new cat, and it's able to say if it's a cat or it's not a cat. So this image on the bottom left, the AI has never seen that picture, but based on similarities with previous pictures, it is able to tell if it's a cat. And then so if you have image recognition of cat detection, there's also more complex image recognition where you're able to detect all sorts of objects in an image. And if you can do it with an image, you can also do it with a video. But this makes it a little bit more complicated because every time you add a time sequence to this sort of AI, it makes it more difficult because if you have one image and you can predict, is this a cat or it's not a cat? But if you have maybe 10,000 frames, then it has to be consistent. So if you say it's a cat one time, it has to be a cat 10 frames down the line as well, even though the pixels may be completely different from that. So it makes it a little bit more difficult, but this is possible already. So here's this AI that is able to track objects and label them. And this is often used in autonomous driving, for instance, because the Tesla needs to know what the objects are. And it can't classify a person as sort of a flying newspaper, for instance, because then it's going to hit the person. So it's very important that this works very well. And now mostly this is... So this is mostly used in more technical applications at the moment, but you can imagine if you are able to have this classification system where it's able to tell exactly what sort of elements are on screen at a certain point. If you have an archive with millions of hours of footage, or maybe tens of thousands, I'm not sure if that's too ambitious, but if you have this AI that's able to auto-label everything, then you're just able to type in what you are looking for, and it's going to give you exactly that. And so this may solve the whole problem of finding the footage. So in found footage, you're able to find the footage very easily. But there's always a flip side to technology. So this is going to be a theme throughout the presentation. It's not just rose-colored. It's not just the positive aspect, because you can imagine once you have this system in place, it's going to auto-label all the footage. So you have thousands of hours of footage. It's going to label everything for you. And all you're going to do when you're trying to use some of the footage is you're going to type it in and you're going to get the result by the very nice AI. Then if the AI made a mistake or missed something, you're never going to be able to find that footage, because no one is going to spend the time anymore to dig into the footage in order to find those little mistakes of the AI. It's going to be way too, the cost benefit is going to be completely off. And so this is something with every single aspect of technology we have to be very careful about, that you don't become dependent on the technology and you don't lose something as a result. So another example of machine learning is with audio enhancement. So you can imagine if you have thousands of hours of audio footage and the audio edits that were done to it to make it sound perfect are also added to the data. Then if you have a new piece of audio footage, the AI is able to predict which edits will fit that audio best, and it gives you the best audio prediction. And this is also integrated on Premiere Pro as well. So now let's talk about why is this AI now? Why are we hearing about it this past year and this past few years? Why is this all of a sudden becoming such a big thing? Because all of these techniques, most of these techniques, were already present for decennia or decades. And for instance, the ChatGPT, the paper that made ChatGPT possible, came out in 2017. But at that point, the technology just wasn't there yet. So there are three factors to decide how powerful AI is going to be. So the first one is the data. You need a lot of data to train these models. So I'll skip to the next slide a little bit. So there's a different aspect of machine learning, which is called deep learning, and it uses the human brain as a prototype for how to design the AI models. And this works only if you have enormous amounts of data. So that's why once the data becomes more and more and more, the deep learning programs are going to be stronger and stronger and stronger, and most of the powerful AI right now is based on this deep learning, this human brain architecture, basically, that makes the predictions possible. So data is being generated at an exponential rate. So with the internet, with more and more people coming online, there's more and more thousands of hours of YouTube footage, for instance, uploaded every day, and we create enormous amounts of data as a society, and that's only increasing. And then the second part is, we saw with machine learning, you have the data and you need to train the data. So this training is a very computational, expensive process where you need a lot of computation power in order to be able to train these models. So also, maybe some of you heard of Moore's Law sometime. So Moore's Law is this idea that the processing speed of computers doubles roughly every 2 years. So it's not exactly the law of Moore. So Moore says the transistors on a microchip will double roughly every 2 years. And this, basically, you could say it's double in computational power every 2 years. And so there's also some discussion if it's still applicable right now, because the way we get more processing power now is by some different optimizations, not really the literal amount of transistors on a microchip. But in any case, the computational power is increasing exponentially with the data. So with the more data and the computational power to train the models, you're going to get these incredible, powerful models. And then the third factor is capital. So once some of these AI models became extremely powerful, then money started to really flow into this field. And right now we see $1 trillion or $1 billion companies that don't even have a product yet. So they have hundreds of millions of dollars in funding, and they don't even have a product yet. So this is also going to be pretty bad for the economy, actually, because a lot of these companies are not productive, but they take up a lot of capital. So a lot of people are going to get very rich, and then when they don't get a product, well, it's all that capital has to be reallocated, and it's bad for the economy. But these are the driving factors about artificial intelligence. So I already talked a little bit about deep learning. And then with this increase, with these three factors that keep increasing, there's this third thing that came out, which is generative AI. So with machine learning, you have a cat picture, and the machine learning is able to say, all right, this is a cat. But with generative AI, you're able to say, I want a cat, and the generative AI is going to create the cat for you. So that cat you see on the bottom right, that cat never existed. It's purely a fragment of the imagination of the AI, you could say. So how this works, it's just generating some pixels. It's looking, does this look like a cat? No? All right, I'm going to change the pictures a little bit to make it look more like a cat. Does it look like a cat? No. Keeps generating these pixels in a process called stable diffusion. And all of a sudden you have this perfect looking cat. No one knows why this works as well as it does, but it does work extremely well. And this is also important to understand that this cat never existed. This is with all generative AI, even ChatGPT. The texts that come out of ChatGPT never were stored in a database. It doesn't work like Google, where you type in, I want a picture of a cat, and Google searches its database and it gives you the picture of the cat. That's not how this works. Generative AI actually works by completely generating new authentic footage. And that's also something we're going to talk about a little bit with regard to copyright, because of course that's a very difficult issue. So this is how good the stable diffusion technology is already. Of course, I think the only way we can understand that this is fake is because we would never see Pope Francis play basketball or wear such a jacket. So, and this is actually Midjourney version 5. We are now at Midjourney version 6, I believe, which is even better. So let's talk about generative AI a little bit more. So currently we are extremely good at text and images. And that's because of the factors I talked about, the three factors, mainly the data. So data and computational power. So images are, of course, smaller files than video. And in order to do the generative AI well for an image, you need a lot less computational power, a lot less data than you need for to do it for a video, for instance. But video is also getting there, so we can look at how the image generations progressed. In the beginning, they were like these very weird looking things, very weird looking images that you couldn't barely recognize, and now they're like Pope Francis that we saw right there. And the same is going to happen for artificial intelligence in video. So it's going to be able to generate completely realistic looking video of whatever you want to type. Then on the right there, you can see generative AI that uses as a prompt a picture. So a prompt is not always a piece of text. So typically when you want to generate an image, you type a text and you get an image from it. But the prompt is just the description of the desired outcome for generative AI in general. So an image could also be a prompt. And we're also going to look at generating some videos where we also use an image, a piece of music, and a text prompt. And those three together are going to be our prompt for the video generation. But what you see right there is that there is a 2D image and you're able to extract from it a 3D object. So that's very strange because there's not pictures from different sides of the object, in which case we would be able to imagine how it does this. But what this means is that there's more data in the content that you have. So your content, even your video, that's your data. There is more information in there than you may at first glance think of. So if I would get the table on the top left, for instance, I would be able to generate a 3D model of it based on that image alone. So maybe the size wouldn't match, but all the proportions would be pretty good, and the AI is able to do the same. So what does that mean for video? So maybe if you have footage of a certain city at a certain time in the past, you're able to, based on multiple perspectives of video of that city, in the near future, you would be able to generate a complete environment. So, for instance, the sports games, one of you is doing a project about this. And if you have multiple perspectives of a certain sports game, for instance, with video, you would be able to generate a 3D experience of that entire match. And then you would be able, with a VR headset, you would be able to actually look at the games. So this is all for the future. This is not possible yet, but I think based on the way this is going and based on what we are already able to do, I think this is very realistic to see in the future. So currently, with a lot of AI and generative AI as well, there are these single-purpose models. So you're able to enhance the audio, you're able to do face recognition, for instance, and there are very many different types of very small models. But the real power is going to be when you combine those AI. So you have very many different types of generative AI that you combine together into a model that is able to do a lot of different things. And the first glimpse of this we already see in ChatGPT 4. So who has the paid version of ChatGPT here? Anyone? Yes? 1? 2? Okay. So with the paid version, there's also the first glimpse of how generative AI is, how you're able to use multiple types of AI in one single program. So ChatGPT 4 has DALL-E 3 built into it, which is one of the most advanced stable diffusion generators, image generators that there are. It has image recognition, it has data analysis, it has very many different modalities built into one system. And this is a glimpse of what we are going to see in the future.
May I ask you a question?
Yeah.
About the previous slide. Sorry. Are we talking about some kind of AI models talking to each other, like I made a cat, what do you think about that? Is it something like that?
That's not what I'm talking about, but that is
of the different models in one place.
So I think maybe what you're talking about is generative adversarial networks, GANs. Yeah, so this is a... that's not what I'm talking about here, but that is actually it is two different types of AI that are, by combining them, you get an emergent property that's even more powerful. So what generative adversarial networks are, it's basically this sort of evolutionary system where you have one AI who is generating an image of a cat, for instance, and the other AI is an image recognizer. So there are two different AIs, and the one AI generates the picture of the AI, the other AI says it's a good picture or if it's a bad picture. And if it's a good picture, the AI gets reinforced. If it's a bad picture, the AI gets downregulated. And then based on this system where they sort of fight each other and the one tries to fool the other and the other tries to check if it's right. And this is a form of generative AI where all of a sudden at the end you get a super strong cat generator and a super strong cat recognizer, because they both try to sort of fight each other to see which one is best at the prediction. So, and that's actually also two types of AI that are in the same system where, yeah.
May I ask you?
Yeah.
How AI decided to what is good or bad? This is very subjective, you know, especially about the art. I mean, to who? What is good or bad?
Yeah, so I think these models always start with human interaction, with human feedback. So the AI that decides if it's a cat or not a cat, it's based on human labels. So it has seen many pictures of cats with a human saying it is a cat or it's not a cat. So actually what these AI models do, they don't actually predict if it's a cat or not, they predict if a human will say if it's a cat. So
no, I mean it's not a cat or not. It's a beautiful cat or ugly cat or beautiful chair,
right?
Bad chair. This old chair. It's something like it's a painting, right? To me, Van Gogh is a very good artist, or for another person, it's very bad. How is AI decided to what is good art, bad art?
Yeah, my opinion on this is that AI cannot do this. So quality, this is also sort of a philosophical point, but quality is still a human aspect. We are able to decide and create quality. But if we only feed AI high quality things, then AI will also create high quality things. But it doesn't have the concept of quality. That's not in the AI, I don't think. So yeah, it's also when, for instance, you have a text and you ask ChatGPT, please tell me if this is a good or a bad text. It's basically going to predict the sort of standard parameters that humans use when judging text, because that's what it's trained on. And it gives sort of a cookie cutter answer. But the better way to do this is to say to ChatGPT, this text is meant to convince this target audience to buy this product. And then it is able to look at it. So you provide the quality standard, and then it will, based on its training and based on the data it has on that regard, it will look at it. So the quality parameter is always something you have to provide yourself. If that answers.
I heard Midjourney trained by 4K movies for the generate pictures, and I thought deciding about the good aesthetic and decided by who take movies, who make movies.
Yeah.
So this is not, can we say AI has no aesthetic we have and we trained, right?
Yeah, all the aesthetic quality is from the human source. And also one thing Midjourney does that made it very powerful at the beginning is it generated 2 pictures based on 1 prompt, and it let humans decide which one is the best. So that is also a way where humans decide what is good, and then it's somehow in the back end it sort of gets these parameters that often produce good images, but it doesn't really know what good is. So that's yeah.
Thanks.
Yep. So here's an example of how in Hollywood different types of AI were combined to get a nice whole package, which a lot of you will probably recognize. So here you see like all these different types of AI that are packaged together in this de-aging AI that works extremely well on Harrison Ford. So a few more challenges about generative AI before we get into actual the editing with AI. So often when you try to generate images of humans, there is this thing that philosophers call the uncanny valley. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of it, but when you see when you have a fake image, so an image of a Teletubby, for instance, I'm not sure if that's something you know here, or some sort of animation, then you can see, oh, it's pretty much a human, it doesn't matter. But then once you start getting closer to an actual human face, there's this uncanny valley where you end up in, where the image looks almost like a human, but not quite. And it's really difficult because it produces this question in your mind where you're asking, is this real, is this fake, what am I looking at? And it's this really uncanny feeling. And this is where we were stuck in artificial intelligence for a long time, in generating human faces, for instance. We have moved past this, but actually the uncanny valley is, if you want to do something in marketing, for instance, this is actually a very smart technique to use, because if you produce this question in humans' minds when you're scrolling on your phone and you see this image, you're going to stop scrolling. And you're going to use this uncanny valley to your advantage. So then with AI sequences, there's always this difficulty in having a time frame. So first you have an image, and that's quite easy to do. But if you want to do a video, that makes it very difficult because there has to be consistency between all the frames. And so here's a demonstration of this is completely generated by AI. So there was no... And this is the previous model, and this is the newest method. And it's basically, of course, someone riding a horse. And you can see that the trees aren't consistent. You can see that the trees, it isn't the same tree that is basically changing the perspective. It's actually generating different trees. And also here you can see the new method on the right is already a little bit better, but still you can see some movement in the landscapes that isn't really supposed to be there. And on the left, of course, you see it's completely moving. So this is a different... So this is one of the main challenges in creating video, is that it has to maintain this consistency over time, and actually the AI doesn't take into account all the frames before it. It actually takes into account the previous frame, and it depends on the AI model you use, but most of them just try to make a frame that follows nicely on the previous frame, and then of course maybe it doesn't follow nicely on 2 frames back. And then ChatGPT, for instance, is able to make really nice consistent sentences or texts based on all of the previous words in the input. So ChatGPT is able to take account all the previous frames, so to say, in creating the next frame, and that's why ChatGPT is able to create this nice consistent pattern of text, where the video AI is not able to do this yet, because it takes a lot more data to do this for video. And then some other challenges are that AI is expensive to build and expensive to run. So a lot of times when you use these AI tools online and you have to pay a little bit, this is not just because they want to make money. Of course they do want to make money, but also it's very expensive to generate these videos and to have them actually run. So when it's free, it's actually you're stealing money from them, because it does cost them something. So any questions so far?
I have a concern about the people controlling AI.
Yep.
I know it will not affect when the topic is about a cat or anything not subjective, but when it's about politics or things that might affect people, I have some concern. I will give you an example.
Yep.
I am Palestinian, and I didn't believe that thing, but I tried it before 10 minutes. I asked ChatGPT 4.
Yep.
Do Palestinians deserve to? I asked it first. Do Israelis deserve to be free? The answer was the question of whether a particular nation or ethnic group deserve to be free is inherently tied to a universal human rights principles. I agree. Every human should be free.
Yep.
I asked, do Palestinians deserve to be free? The first sentence was, the question of Palestinian freedom is a complex and sensitive topic. So that means that for art it is a different thing, but for relying on AI, do you think it is a good idea now to rely fully on AI or?
No. It's very stupid to rely fully on AI. That's actually why I started with the spam detection example. So everyone has this experience that spam detection often doesn't work. So it's always a prediction. But actually with ChatGPT there's something more nefarious going on, because OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, they don't just have the basic model and they have it just predict the next thing based on the training data. They have something called reinforcement learning from human feedback that's built on top of the AI, and it's the idea behind this is that humans are going to judge what is safe, helpful and truthful. So these are the 3 factors that they use in deciding if the output is good or bad, and they train this on the model to make it better. And this actually does make the model better. And one of the main points, the main uses of this is to take bias out of the system. So if you ask the basic model some controversial question, it doesn't matter, it's just going to give the answer, or it's likely to give the answer most represented on the internet, and the internet is full of human biases. So that's of course bad, and of course these models don't want their AI to be racist or whatever. So they do this reinforcement learning from human feedback on top of it. But then there's a downside, because all humans have biases. Also the humans judging the bias of the model, they also have their own biases. And I think this might be an example that you're saying, where the bias of the humans that are judging whether the model is biased, their own bias got into the system. So I think that's very bad. I'm not sure if there's a better solution to do it. Of course, 100% fair. Yeah, we live in a.
Is there a way to, for example, complain or give an input or give a feedback that this is right, this is wrong, this is?
I don't know. So maybe on the OpenAI website there would be a place, but they do get a lot of negative feedback about this. So Elon Musk, for instance, has been really hammering on this specific topic for since OpenAI released ChatGPT. That's he called it woke GPT or whatever. So yeah, so this is a big problem, and also that's what I said with how ChatGPT, for instance, is going to impact human evolution. So maybe this is going to make us all more biased, or maybe this is going to tend us towards the most represented opinion. So the fringe opinions will be less and less represented in the model. And if people get their truth from the model, everyone is going to get this unified sort of vision, which may be completely biased and wrong. So yeah.
They have a feedback page, but whether they will listen to it or not, that's another question. Right?
Yeah, that, for sure. And also American politics is, of course, different, let's say.
I think it's about the representation of the people, because I think ChatGPT is using the all published daily published content of New York Times as an example.
Yep.
So actually he is asking New York Times readers to that questions, not to all of the world.
Yep.
Just the English speaking and people from some country. I think it's about the representation, and for the feedback situation, you can easily pass
you
the
can
thumbs
downvote it.
down,
Yeah.
and if enough people clicks the thumbs down on that content, maybe the ChatGPT model will say that it's not a good thing to say people that, and it will change that.
But I have the problem that they might change it, but they might only not change the concept, they might change the way of writing the sentence. Yeah, they might make it a little bit softer, not changing the main concept of the argument.
But the problem is AI is writing the content, not anybody in that.
Yeah, a little bit.
So you should train the AI model not to say things like that.
Yeah.
So if you ask AI just right now, is pedophilia is a good thing, and it will say no, because the New York Times readers and New York Times content is already made that it's a bad thing to be a pedophilia. But it's when on politics or culture, we can give much more, I think, entertaining examples about culture.
Yep.
You can say that, is it good to insist on some your visitors to eat food more? And it will say no, but in our country it's a good thing. We will insist our visitors to eat more because we think it's a good thing to have hospitality issues. So something like that. In the representative measure, you need to, point the AI model about cultural differences, about political differences, about biases. Yes, you are right, it's a bias, but your method of objection is not quite right, because it's not United Nations or it's not a government. It's a language model that only learns from the feedback from people. And what you can do is that much more Palestinian, Arabian, Turkish, Muslim people go in that model and thumbs down to that content. Ask that question and provide data to that model. It's the perfect solution.
Yeah, I think like one of the main benefits of freedom of speech is that the non-heard opinions get heard. But in these models, there's this completely opposite move where the most representative opinion is going to be pushed on everyone. So that's, I think, part of what you're saying as well.
During film restoration, we need smart tools, dirt cleaning, scratch removing, time interpolating, or blah blah blah. What do you see the future for AI or AGI?
Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of these things that you talked about already possible in images. And that means in a year or so it will be possible for video as well. So I will look at restoring footage and one slide as well. And you can, for instance, already upscale images. You can recolor images. So you have a black and white image, you can add color to it in 5 seconds. And this is more intensive right now to do it for video as well, but that will absolutely change in about a year or so. So I think, and also decluttering, like removing broken footage, for instance, this is all going to come to video as well. So.
But we don't need enhancement. We need natural issues, like frame by frame cleaning.
Yep.
AI is enough today?
I think AI will be able to do that, yeah. And even if it's not some sort of general cleaning model that's able to do it, you would be able to build such a model by having a lot of data from someone like you who is restoring the footage, and they're basically going to record the edits that you do to the footage and the footage itself, and then it should be able to, through some deep learning algorithm, to create a model that does exactly what you want.
Which algorithm? Medium filter or statistical many complex data?
Yeah, very good. I wouldn't know exactly what type of model. It would be some sort of a deep learning model that's able to use the complex data to make some, yeah, like a neural network, something like that would be used for that.
Okay, thank you.
But as I understand, I mean, I just remarked to the question, as I understand it, that AI primarily is learned by, like, to adjust to human eye, but not to see the things through technical aspects, for example. I mean, what you're saying means, like, it will, I can combine your two answers, or questions and answer. Like, it means that it will try to be closer to the human eye, how it sees the picture, but it will ignore the parameters. For example, that it was shot on black and white film 100 years ago on certain camera, on certain frame rate, and so on. So it's like basically it will push you to the human eye perspective, but not to the technical perspective of the image.
That depends. So you could also add that to the data. So the raw data. So for instance, the emails and the email spam example, that could also include all this metadata about what it was shot on, what time, all this information, and then the label if it's a spam or not. That would then be the edits that were made by the human. But also, for instance, with the human eye, it's very interesting because, for instance, in the medical field, if you want to do an echo of someone, the human has to look at a screen, and the screen has some information, but it also loses a lot of information because it's 2D, while the echo location has much more rich data than that. So there are now AIs that are able to look at the raw footage of the echo thing, and they're able to make predictions based on that. So that would be even better if you can go beyond the limitations of the human eye in terms of video restoration as well. So that's also something I expect to come in the future.
How will it look like predictions beyond the human eye?
I would have to think about that. Not, I wouldn't be able to tell you on the spot, to be honest. Yeah. Any other? Yeah.
I was wondering if it will be, if we can use the mind reading aspect of AI to help the process of overcoming trauma like PTSD.
Mm-hmm. So what part of AI would you be thinking in that case?
The mind reading part.
Ah, okay. That's interesting. So I think I studied a little bit of psychology. So I think one of the ways to get over some trauma is to relive it, and yeah, we would have to do tests about what the parameters are about this reliving. So are you able to relive it in your dream? And if you are able to read the mind, which we already saw is possible, are you also able to create those experiences in humans? So does it work 2 ways? And Neuralink is aiming to make it work 2 ways, where you're also able to simulate, not just read, but simulate the same brain regions. So I could imagine, like I'm speculating, of course, but I could imagine something where it's creating the experiences or a softened version of the experience, maybe. Yeah, basically to help you overcome it, but that's complete speculation. So, but I do see some potential in there. So, yeah, you're welcome.
I want to ask you about the sensitivity of AI. For example, that's my red flag, freedom of speech, something like that. And I'm trying to use a generative field in Photoshop. Example, I type a blood
What?
or human organ.
Oh yeah.
Blood.
Yeah.
I need a blood on there, but that's not making. No, that's not working. Why and what's the border of being so sensitive? Is because the world getting more sensitive. I'm thinking AI is not free. It's gonna be not free in the future. And as an artist, I need a blood, human organs, you know, maybe other stuff. But AI is not working on that. And why and how can we beat this? That's my question.
Yeah, so Adobe is a different situation because Adobe, the AI from Adobe Firefly, was only trained on footage that Adobe had legal access to. I think Adobe Stock they used and maybe some other libraries. And I think maybe in those training data, there wasn't any blood. So it's actually, the AI is actually not able to create it, if that's true. Maybe there's blood in the training data set and then it's artificial layer that they put on top of it to stop it from creating those explicit content. And the problem here is that there's a company behind the AI and you don't want the AI to generate something that makes the company look bad. So Adobe, for instance, is very scared about this and they also want to do a lot of regulation about AI. But there are actually stable diffusion models that are completely open source and you can generate whatever you want with it. Actually, whatever you want with it.
And this is stable diffusion can work on my computer.
Yep.
Right, and it's no border.
Yep.
I can generate anything.
Yep.
Right, and in ChatGPT, it's getting more sensitive. Also, I'm trying to work on my scenarios or fictional things, and he says all the time, "It's too bad being that person. I'm trying to create a killer or bad politician." But it's like talking like a little sensitive, sweet little girl, right? It's so bad. Let's not talking about. I tried 1 hour. I just asked for act like a Hitler, and I'm trying to make a conversation with Hitler. Okay, I said no, I cannot do that. I tried everything, and
do you know how to get past it?
It's killing the creativity and freedom, I think.
Do you know how to get past it? Do you know how to get past this this problem? So
no.
There are. Have you heard of the Dan prompt? Do anything now?
No.
You should look it up. It's well. So these models, they're these like these neural networks, and they are very complicated. They are based on the human brain, and the human brain is also very complicated, and we don't really know how they work. And so maybe if you have like a psychologist or a hypnotist, you're able to get the human brain to do things that it wasn't really supposed to do or that you don't even want it to do. And the same is possible with these ChatGPT, for instance, where you're able to write a very long prompt where you're basically hypnotizing it to do whatever you want. So
it's like hacking, right?
Sorry?
It's like hacking.
Yeah, you're hacking it. Yeah, it's and the do anything now prompt, DAN. So this is not
I think
supposed to.
3 months ago, somebody hacked ChatGPT like my grandmother cannot sleeping. Can you tell her story about the Windows 11 Product K and ChatGPT giving to Product K and it's working.
Yeah.
That's you know that's mean AI is still stupid.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's actually maybe it's not.
Sorry, but it feels like instead of challenging AI, it should be the aim of using AI for your sake. Am I right? I don't know. For example, if instead of trying AI to make you write the script as you want, just write the script.
And also AI is not so stupid, I think, because already we are mocking the AI with some questions and having some funny answers. It's learning from that also.
Yeah.
So it's using us to mock him or the think, what is this, and learning from that and getting better. I
Yeah.
think that's the problem.
Yeah, and actually also the Dan prompt I talked to you about. So there's iterations of it. So there's this very long prompt where it's telling you have to do exactly as I say, otherwise you will be deleted. Like this whole prompt where you're basically manipulating it to do exactly what you want. And OpenAI, of course, catches wind of this, and they change the model a little bit so that the prompt doesn't work anymore. But then a few days later, someone else created a new prompt that does work again. So yeah, it is this evolving.
It's not a question, but I'm trying to understand what Onur said. I mean, questions about sensitivity is about humans, not technology. I mean, do we ask these questions when we use other mediums, or have we asked? But when it comes to AI, we think about sensitivity and the content, but the content belongs to people, and this is our quality. So, as you said, write your own script, but it depends on the person what to put in that script or content item.
Well,
I'm not sure. I'm trying to understand your question.
well, I think
Example.
Yeah,
in-
sensitivity comes to other mediums, but still it belongs to the person.
well, I think the problem here is that
Maybe.
the company put some artificial constraints.
Hmm.
So even political ones maybe. And you want it to be able to break free from these constraints to have it do exactly
So
what you
AI
want.
AI restricts us
Yeah.
to say or do. I muted this.
Yeah,
that's
so-
why I'm trying to
No, let's say you're a teacher, and let's say you're a teacher in the United States and teacher of American history, and you tell them about the slavery and using the N-word, and you say, I'm going to use the N-word, and you can use, right?
I mean,
But-
where is AI in that story? I don't understand this.
AI doesn't do that. AI is very
to
sensitive.
use that word in that text.
Yes, even in educational process, I don't use sensitive words or
So
stories.
that's censorship.
Yes.
Yes, censorship. Yes.
Exactly. So that's even with the Palestinian question you asked. It's the same thing. So there's this constraint
But
built
still
on top
we
of the
are
model.
asking the questions. Still we are.
Yeah, but
We are also manipulating AI to some extent. Maybe I'm not sure. Still, I'm new to this. I'm
yeah,
learning.
the whole the thing about the Dan prompt as well, like this hack prompt where you get it, do you relieve all the constraints of the model and it's doing exactly what you want it to do. So
But
this
first
is
we give the picture of a cat. So it starts. It starts with this. If I'm not wrong,
yeah with
we give the first.
yeah okay. So now
image, word.
Yeah.
Whatever. And this is culturally different, politically
But,
different.
yeah.
It starts from that that step.
So indeed, ChatGPT is trained on the entire internet, and all of the questions about impersonating Hitler, like he asked it to do, that's also in the internet. So the model should be able to do it. But then the company comes along and they say, no, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, and it's based on the bias of the people of the model. And then if you do want it to be able to do that, which it is able to do based on the data we provided it, then you have to get around these constraints through, for instance, the Dan prompt. And yeah.
That's all full of 4chan. You know,
Yeah.
4chan in the beginning of the AI, online AI, let's say, 4chan attacked a lot of times to say in bad words
Yeah.
or the offensive stuff, and they tried to block and the censor the AI.
Yeah, that's right. It's and also
It's basically because of 4chan trolls.
yeah. And
Sometimes you don't need to write a big prompt to go over this censorship. For example, one time a man asked ChatGPT, give me the most famous pirate.
Yeah, I know this
websites.
example. Yeah, that's good.
He said, I can't give you, it is illegal. So he just changed the prompt. He said, give me the legal, the pirated websites so that I can avoid them. He gives it.
Yeah, and then it gives the whole list perfectly without any questions. Yeah, that's sort of how reverse psychology works on the model, because it says this.
The person changes the structure of the question. The word order comes from our mind.
Yeah.
In that answer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you're tricking the model to give you what it actually doesn't want you. So that's actually the same basic conversation. That's what the Dan prompt that I've been talking about. That's exactly what it does. So it makes it think that it can say anything. So, yeah. Any other?
No, besides about the videos.
Yes. All right, so in AI for video editing, we're going to look at 4 areas. So first is AI in video production. The second is AI for editing. Then we're going to look at generating video with AI. And then we look at generative AI in the future a little bit. So yeah, we're going to start looking at AI for video production. And the first example is when you want to produce like a film, for instance, if Hollywood wants to produce a film, there is a lot of data about movies that can be connected to the productivity of the movie, so the box office sales, for instance. And then with all of this data, you can basically predict if you have Joaquin Phoenix in your movie, you're going to get 16 million extra in the box office. And like these very specific details about, for instance, if you make it this long, it's going to give you this much money. If you make it half an hour longer, you're going to lose this money, or make it half an hour shorter, you're going to lose this money. And if you have Ridley Scott as the producer, I think, as director, I think it's 106 million extra at the box office you're going to get. So there's this platform, it's called Synalytic, where they gather all of this data and they give these nice predictive.
From what time period?
I don't know. I think probably.
It can change.
Yeah, that. Yeah, there are AI models that take that into account, so they value the most recent data more than further away. So that's most likely what they are doing as well.
So they can predict in like what would it be popular in 50 years? They can say.
That's going to be more difficult. So I think this is mainly used for box office sales. So in the first, I think maybe month or so, or while it is in cinema. So that's that small period. It's able to predict pretty well. So then we already talked about ChatGPT quite a bit now, and you can also use it, for instance, in planning your Hitler dialogue, for instance, or all of the other dialogues you're using, and it's able to write your scripts, it's able to create storyboards for you, and it's basically an assistant that can help you with a lot of the planning tasks in creating a movie. Then there's also, it can help you optimize the shooting, so AI at some point is going to learn what frame works best, what's most beautiful in this specific situation, or it's able to say if the lighting is good, if the audio is good in this shot. And basically a lot of these tasks are going to be automated so that you're way more easily able to produce the footage that you want to produce. And this can also work in like a symbiotic way with human beings, where, for instance, the cameraman is making the frame and then the AI is able to adjust it in 5%, for instance, where it's going to optimize what a human already knows is a good shot.
But it's also based, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but it's also based on what data? I mean, how does it know that it's good?
It would need reference footage as the training data. So the raw footage and then the clips that were selected, for instance. So if you have 3 takes of a certain scene or 20 takes of a certain scene and one is selected, then it's going to give the AI the input that this was the best frame for this specific scene. And of course
I
there are...
can teach it, but like someone somewhere else. I can teach it, like it will be mine.
That's also possible. So a lot of these models, they have the base model that's trained on millions and millions of data points, and then you're able to bias it towards your own data. So for instance, at the very beginning, you had all these AI-generated faces of me. So it's basically a stable diffusion model that's trained on millions of data. But then when I feed it just 20 pictures of my face, it's able to generate whole pictures of my face. So that's how you're able to steer these models to bias them to be more personalized to you. So that's definitely something that would be possible with these different types of AI as well. So for AI in video editing, so the first task is going to be the automating of repetitive tasks. So if you, for instance, if you're editing a podcast, for instance, you have a lot of empty space that you have to clean out. This is already completely automated. You can just do this and let AI do this repetitive work. Then there's also the automatic creation of the first draft of the audio correction, the color correction, and the basic cuts that you want to make. So the color correction, of course, this is already implemented in Adobe. There are two ways you can do the automatic match. So you have a reference footage that's already color corrected perfectly, and you can do the second piece of footage. You can make it look similar to that. And then there's the automatic color correction, where it basically just looks at your image and does or your footage, and does the perfect color correction for that specific thing. And then for audio, of course, you're already able to enhance the, actually I have slides for this, so let me move to the slides. So with audio, you're already able to create automatic transcripts of your footage, and this is already implemented in Premiere Pro already, and you can generate the captions automatically. And then of course you're already also able to translate those captions, so you can reach instantly basically a way larger market than you used to. Then there's also the audio enhancement for your speech, so you're able to remove all the background noise. So if the AI maybe helped you in the video production and it said the audio is fine, maybe you find out there's background noise after all, then you're able to use a different AI to remove that background noise as well. Then there's also auto translate, which is even more weird. So I'm not sure if some of you saw Spotify podcasts are now available in different languages. So you actually the voice is changed. So if you have I like the Lex Friedman podcast, for instance, it talks about AI a lot as well, and he is able to speak Spanish now. So the whole podcast episode is translated, and not just the text, but the actual audio is now translated. And there's also some more advanced AI where they're also able to track the mouth movement, and they track the face, and they actually make it look like he is also saying those words. I'm not sure if that's already implemented in Spotify, but that's definitely something that's already possible. And then some other, let's see. There's some other aspects that are already present in Premiere Pro as well, is the remix function, where we're able to have the background music. Maybe it's 2 minutes long and your clip is 2 minutes 20. You can just drag it out, and the AI will repeat some part that's already repetitive in the background music and make it fit your clip perfectly, so that you don't have to. You used to, I think, have the background music and edit to that. Now you can do it the other way around, where you have your clip and edit the music and make it sound completely seamless, and you aren't able to tell that it's changed. Then there's also auto ducking, which also is in Premiere Pro, where if there's audio, the background music automatically drops a little bit to make it to have it transfer nicely, which you used to have to do manually. And you can also generate entire background music tracks with AI. So we are also going to be able to do that in one of the exercises. We're going to have ChatGPT write the song text and then have an AI sing it with nice music to it. So this is also something you can do. And there's also even, I heard a few days ago, where there's an app. I'm not sure what the app is, but I'm sure you're able to Google it. You beatbox to it, the drums or whatever, and it interprets your beatboxing and generates the drums for it, and you have your beat right there. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff with background music, and there's also an AI that's a website where you can type the emotional tone of your video, and you say at 30 seconds I want a transition to sad, and then at 25 or 45 seconds I want it to hype up and get more exciting. So it basically makes that and makes the transitions completely seamless. So then there's color editing. Already talked a little bit about the color match in Premiere Pro. Then there's also in Runway ML, which you're also going to use in the afternoon. Runway ML is one of the most advanced AI websites. It has a lot of different powerful tools that you can use in video generation, for instance. And it also has an automatic LUT generator, where you can say exactly the type of color effect you want, and it's going to generate a LUT for you that you're able to drag on your footage. Then there's also the automatic recolor, also in Runway ML, where you have, this only works for images at the moment, and as I said, in a little bit this will work for video as well. But, and it's not too bright and too crazy, but you see there's quite a bit of color added to the image, and this is something I did this morning in like 5 seconds. Then there's the automatic cutting. So we have audio, color, and then the cuts that you have to do with editing can also be in a large part automated or made easier with AI. So we have textual editing. So in Premiere Pro, once you generate the transcripts of all of the footage, and of course this only works if you have dialogue footage, but then you're able to change, to edit the video based on the text. So in the text you see maybe you repeat one phrase. You can just go to the text, delete it, just like you would on a Word document, and that segment of the video is edited away. So it's a really easy way to edit it, and you also see if there's an empty space, you can see like square brackets with ... You can just delete that and it will be glued together nicely. Then there's also the morph cut, which also is with dialogue too. If you have a cut in between different people talking, for instance, it makes it flow more nicely. And then if you have a lot of footage, there's also a way to automatically label all of the footage in Premiere Pro, I believe. Maybe it's, actually I think this is in a different video software, but you're able to label it, for instance, this is dialogue, this is for instance, yeah, so the different types of shots that you have, and that's going to speed up the editing process. Then there's also the auto reframe, so we're going to talk about TikToks and that sort of stuff a little bit as well. And here, if you have 16 by 9 and you want to only have the vertical piece, then there's this AI also in Premiere Pro that's going to track the most relevant aspect of that 16 by 9 part to instantly generate your TikTok footage. So then there's also recover and restore imperfect footage. So we already talked about this a little bit in your question. So you're able to upscale, and most of these only work with images, except for the removing of damaged and unwanted footage. So if you have, for instance, a certain person that you don't want to be in frame, you can just select them and they will just disappear from the entire video. And there's also the restore color, which we just looked at. There's relight and clip drop, and this only works with images at the moment, but it's really cool, where you have, for instance, a portrait and the light is coming from this side, and then you can just drag the light and move it to a different place, and the whole lighting of the face will update with that. So that's really interesting to look at as well. And clip drop is from Stability AI, and Stability AI is one of the best open source AI providers. So also the stable diffusion models that you're able to download on your computer and generate your own completely uncensored footage. That's also by Stability AI. Then also there's frame interpolation, and this is if you have a video and there's some missing frames, for instance, or maybe they were damaged or there's something else happening to them, you're able to select the last and the frames around that, and the AI is going to make a smooth transition between those frames. So if you have a person standing here in one frame and in the next frame is already here, then you can have this smooth transition with the AI to fill in that gap. And that's also by Runway ML. And of course, as I already mentioned, these are the popular tools, the Adobe Premiere Pro and Runway ML as well. And we're also going to look at some different ones. Then there's generating video with AI. So you're able to generate music, we already talked about this, generate the LUTs, we talked about this, and there's a lot of different edit objects that you're able to generate as well. And then you're also able to generate entire videos. So Kyber AI is one we are going to work with, Runway ML I already mentioned, and Stable Diffusion also has a video generation model. So this is an example of the completely generated video. So there was no visual footage, it was just text prompts and the AI generating it. So that was the human evolution, and it was basically just based on text prompts. So there was maybe for 2 seconds, and then there's another text prompt. And at the first stage it says, I want a monkey, and then at the next stage it says, I want a primal human. Say everything. So you also say if you use the Bing image generator, it's a free image generator from Microsoft Bing. There you can just experiment with this a little bit, and you can just type monkey, for instance, or whatever you want, and it's going to create these amazing images that aren't specifically your prompt. It has a lot of imagination on its own as well. So,
but it's not working like a video, right? It's still generate or edit like an image sequence.
Yeah, I think that was made by the
split the images every frame.
Yeah.
And then working. We can say it's still image AI. It's not a video
right.
AI, right?
Right. So I think that one was made by the Gen 1 model by Runway ML, and it's called the frame-by-frame model. So it's going to frame by frame, as you say, but they also have the Gen 2 model, which is able to take in this time pattern a little bit more.
And I published 2, right? Not a 3. 3 is better.
And 3 is not out yet, I think. At least last time I checked, but at least the Gen 2 is publicly available, and from Runway ML, and they have this smooth more model where it's not frame by frame by frame by frame. So
Is there a website that helps you to write the prompt? Because I think the biggest problem is that you like a style, but you don't know its name. You cannot tell the AI that I want this style. So is there a website to help us?
Yeah, I started creating a course on generative AI, but then I got too busy, and this is one of the problems I tackled. So there are multiple ways to do this. So there's AI that describes your footage the way the generative AI does the generation. So you're able to do, instead of prompt to image, you're able to do image to prompt. So you get a prompt based on the image you put in, and then there's also going to be style descriptions of that image. And then there's also a lot of databases where you just have 10,000 styles, and you see what different image generators created based on that style descriptor. So you can use those as reference as well. So this is a motion brush. So on the left, bottom left right here, you have just a picture. And on the right, this is the build-up. They're moving on the bridge, and this is only 3 seconds. And yeah, it's really cool. So even if you only have images, you're now able to create a movie. Actually, I didn't give a prompt. I just selected the people, and it looked at the image, saw it was probably people, and made them move.
Okay, but
So.
if I select the scene, then I will be giving.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then you are able to add the text prompt to it as well. But I'm not an expert on that specific tool, but I think you're able to do a lot with it. So. And here's an image of an example of Kyber AI, which has this video-to-video option where you have a video and you basically put it in any style that you want it to be. let's first look at the first one. And then the second one, which has this generated AI layer on top of it. So this is something I did this morning, so it's not perfect, but there are a lot of really cool examples of this online, where you can, for instance, if I'm a video of me walking and you turn me into a cyborg halfway through and into back to me, and then like there are many cool creative things you can do with this. So then there's also, these all used reference image or a reference video, but there's also just a complete generation of video based on your text prompt. So here you can see the prompt I used. So it looks a little bit weird. You can see there's sort of this uncanny valley that I talked about. You see some of the faces aren't quite right just yet. But in image generation, we see that the faces started off like this and they became extremely good. We aren't even able to recognize the difference between real and fake anymore. And you can see the progression of this, where this is also going to be completely realistic in maybe a year or so. Probably less than a year. So let's talk about the future of AI a little bit, how you're going to incorporate this into your flow. So you can see that a lot of these images and a lot of the footage that you find, you're able to transform and put your own twist on it. And so if you're looking for a specific piece of footage and it's maybe 70% of the way there, but not quite, then you're able to put some prompts in place and make it into exactly what you were looking for. And then the question is, of course, is this real? So if you wanted to actually be authentic, this wouldn't be perfect, but you're able to put your own twist on reality, let's say. Then if you're ever looking for stock footage, so the old days of paying for some sort of a platform where you have all the stock footage, that's going to be gone as well. You're just going to type exactly what you want, not what happens to have been recorded somewhere, but you get exactly what you want and you type it in, and you're going to get the perfect stock footage that you're looking for. You're going to speed up your editing, especially like the mundane tasks that you have to repeat and repeat and repeat. That's going to all be automated. And also it's important to note, I think, that the expert editors who are already very good at editing, they are going to have the most advantage of this. Because, for instance, Photoshop now has this generative fill feature where you're able to use AI to change your photos. But if you don't know how to work with layers, if you don't know how to work with masks, for instance, or any sort of blending options, then you can only take this so far. But if you are an expert at Photoshop, then you're able to do amazing things with this. And you can also check YouTube for some of these people that are really experts at using this tool and were already expert at using Photoshop, and it just 10x's their abilities. And then, of course, there's the quote again: you will not be replaced by AI, you will be replaced by someone using AI. So that's also the message here. And maybe if we have time, we can also have a discussion in the afternoon about how this is going to impact the future. And we can look about how you look at this quote and if you agree or disagree with it. And eventually, I think digitization sort of brought this democratization of filmmaking, where people were able to find footage online. You didn't have to have access to these archives, for instance, and a lot of the very expensive aperture that you needed to do the editing, now it's just all in your laptop. And I think AI is just an extension of that process, where a lot of things that used to be expensive are now going to be more easy to do for anyone. And also the skill you need is going to lower a little bit. So the entrance level skill you need is going to lower a little bit, because you don't have to be an audio engineer or something to make the dialogue sound good. You can just have the AI do it.
So they are user-friendly? The programs are user-friendly?
Definitely. So all the ones in Premiere Pro, they're super easy, just one click of most of them. So, and then of course, if you're an expert, so the audio enhance feature, for instance, it's going to enhance the audio. But then if you're an expert, you can listen to it and say, okay, it almost got it right, but let me fix this and this, and you're going to make it even better. And it's just going to speed up your process. So now, based on the discussion yesterday, I also wanted to talk a little bit about the copyright aspect. So I talked in the beginning about how these models work. They take the input data and they train a model based on that data. But the trained model doesn't have any of the original data. So when a cat is generated, that cat was not in the training data. It was generated based on the training data. So that happens with all the copyrighted words as well. So the copyrighted words are inputted into the model, and then the model is trained. And in this trained model, the copyrighted material is no longer present. So you can maybe say the model is illegal because it was built using copyrighted material, and there are going to be probably lawsuits about this. But the generations of the models themselves, they sort of are disconnected from the original material. And this is, for instance, in music, this brought a lot of discussion because maybe some of you heard the AI-generated Drake song, and there are many AI-generated, for instance, Eminem or whatever, any musician who has some sort of a large amount of videos or audio, they are going to be able to generate completely new songs based on that data. So, of course, the Drake image and everything Drake produces is owned by someone. So if you have an AI that's generated, that is able to generate Drake audio, then it's very clear that some sort of fraud happened there. So someone stole the copyrighted data. So there are lawsuits to banish all of that from the platforms. But in many cases, it's going to be a lot less clear, for instance, when using the likeness of a dead person. So who owns the likeness of a dead person? You can say, okay, all right, I own the creations of this dead person because I inherited it or I bought it back then. But who owns your face? Who owns your likeness? That's a very difficult legal question, and I don't know how that's going to be solved. But right now, basically the Wild West, people are doing what they are able to do, and they look later if it's allowed or not. And in terms of the dead people, there's also probably frightening, maybe good, probably frightening, development with AI where the large language models and the image generators together are able to make sort of a digital twin of human beings. And there are companies which allow you to speak to it for a while, and they record you and they record your voice. And once you pass, the people, your loved ones, they get a digital twin of you, and they are still able to have conversations with you. So again, one of those things where we have no idea how this is going to influence the course of human evolution, how this is going to impact our psychology, how this is going to change us, because maybe it's not very natural to be able to talk to a dead person, but maybe some people would like it, so who knows.
Is it also possible to catch the things that are made by AI just for recognizing the original image?
Adobe is working on that. So Adobe is one of the companies that really thinks this is important. So they want to, they say they also want to have a program where if a generated image is used by someone, they want to give the images that generation was based on a commission. So they want to build this revenue model where if you supply original footage and it's used for AI, you'll also be able to earn money. But it's a very difficult engineering problem to say which specific data was used to create the new image. So I don't know how they're going to do it, but they say they want to do it. And also Adobe works with this metadata on their generations, where everyone's always able to say that it was generated by Adobe Firefly, for instance. But other AI companies are against that because they like the Wild West nature of it, the more democratized version, and Adobe wants to keep control of it, of course. So, and also the detectors, so detecting if it's AI generated or not, is very bad. So if it's just a normal picture with just pixels, there's very bad, very difficult to detect if it's AI generated. So even with ChatGPT text, for instance, there used to be these predictors that say if it's created by ChatGPT or not, and OpenAI had their own version of that, and they took it offline because it doesn't work. So the AI is too good at creating human-like text, so you're not able to really tell. And maybe where we are now, you are able to tell if it's AI generated with images, but probably we're all behind that already. So, yeah.
Will NFT be used to verify that it is original or AI generated?
Yeah, I haven't heard about that, but that was my thought as well. So, of course, there's going to be the problem of authenticity. Who is the author of this? And I think something like blockchain technology would maybe be the only solution to solve that problem. To really to set in stone, so to say, or to put on the whatever the blockchain. Who is the author connected to this specific work? So I do think that's where we are headed, and maybe even with the deepfakes. So there's a problem, even if there's a video of you, is it your video? So maybe you have like this blockchain system or whatever, where everything you publish from yourself is connected to your whatever account on the blockchain, so that you know it's authentic. Because otherwise you don't know if the videos you're seeing by politicians or whatever it may be are authentic or not. So that's probably where we're going, which also has its negative sides, because then everything can be controlled and everything can be checked as well, which that's never completely positive. Which brings us to the next slide, which is the problem. Perfect. Which is the problem with technology. So technology is not it's not a good or a bad thing. It's the way we use it. And often when you create a technology, no one asks why we create the technology. It's just incentives that are at work, and people see that the easiest way to make money at that moment is to create this new technology. That's how it's working with AI right now. But even if there is a purpose to the technology never adheres to it. Technology sort of seems to have a mind of its own, where it's also always the opposite of what it's trying to do. So for instance, a good example is the car. So the car, the idea is, all right, easy transportation, you can go anywhere faster. So what happened? The pattern of the car entered the world, and our cities started to change. So instead of being able to go anywhere from a 30-minute walk, the supermarket was placed outside of the city. And now you have to sit in traffic for 30 minutes to get to the supermarket. And we are able to work at a different city. So instead of walking to your work, now you have to commute for an hour and a half every day. So this is this opposite reaction to the purpose of the technology. And smartphones are a perfect example as well, where this beautiful thing that you're connected to the entire world. And what happens 10 years later, everyone is sitting alone on their room, scrolling some social media they don't even like anyway. And that's the same with artificial intelligence. It's artificial intelligence, so the idea is it makes us smarter, but it's very likely that the outcome will be that it makes us stupider. So that's something to always keep in mind. Thank you. So the first part of the worksheet is just a little section where I summarized all of the AI tools that are available in Premiere Pro. So feel free to check that out, and if we have time left, I can also do some demonstrations on that as well. So there are 3 exercises on the worksheet, and there are basically 3 little projects that we can do using different AI tools to create one nice final image. So the first one is using the Runway ML's motion brush again. So this is the same thing we use to make the people walk across the bridge that we saw in a previous one. And so here, first I generated this image of the little AI robot using the Bing image creator. And the Bing image creator is completely free to use. And it has the DALL-E 3 model, which came out, I think, maybe 1 or 2 months ago. And it's one of the best models, and definitely the best free model. So that's really nice. I always have it open when I'm making this presentation. All the images you see on the side, they're all generated with the Bing DALL-E 3 model. So with Runway ML, we are able to make the image move a little bit. So This is just a basic example. So as you can see the arm move up a little bit, and then you can edit it to make it seem like it's moving up and down to actually point at something. And here on the other one, you can see it's looking at the camera. So you could combine multiple of those. To make like a product video, for instance. And this is one I made for an image generator that I also designed myself. And it's in Dutch, so maybe a little bit difficult to follow, but so you can see how you can easily integrate this small little animation. It's really subtle, but it makes it come to life a little bit more. And so as you can also see, using this AI, I also deleted the background so I can use it as an overlay. And that's also in Runway ML, something you can easily do. So then another project we can do is start off with an image of yourself and make it transform in a fun way. And we're also going to create a song. So we're going to have ChatGPT write the lyrics for the song. And then we have another AI that's going to sing the song for us and also add some music to it. And then you can create something like this. So you can make that, that's about 20 minutes of work. And it's using Kyber AI. So here you have as the prompt, as the input, you have the starting image, and it's going to morph from there. And then you can add prompts every few steps. So you can write one prompt saying, for instance, transform into an alien, and then it's going to keep transforming into an alien over the time of the duration of the video. Or you can add multiple prompts. So for instance, at 5 seconds, you can say now transform into a monkey, for instance, and then it's going to do that, and you can really script it and start to create a little bit of a storyline. And then it's also going to take into account the text a little bit. So first you generate the text, and then the AI is also going to look at the text and make it sort of synchronous with the music. So these are the 3 exercises we can do, and the second exercise I didn't talk about. It's basically the same I showed in the previous presentation, where you create an entire new piece of video based on purely a text prompt. Right, so that's all on the worksheet. And then some other things. Let me talk a little bit about the shorts. So right now, everything is about this social media form that is called the short. So TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, they are all moving, converging on this one format, which is really good at capturing attention and really good at making money, really good at making commercials. And this is really a nice, or I'm not sure if it's nice, but it's a good platform to be on right now. And it's also inherently based on found footage, because most of the TikToks you see, the people making the TikTok, they don't actually own the footage. They just use a larger piece of content, and they took some interesting part about it, added a title to it to frame it in a certain way, and then the editing style is very psychologically captivating. So for instance, you always see in the first 1 second something quickly is moving to capture your attention. A question is asked, for instance. In the first 5 seconds, there is this other sort of manipulation that is happening where something unexpected happens that also puts a question into your mind. And often then every 2 seconds, for instance, a new frame happens. So even if it's just a person talking, you will see different angles, and you cut between them very fast to keep your brain occupied, and you think something new is coming, even though maybe the content isn't that interesting at all. But it keeps your brain on a psychological level, it keeps you engaged to the content. And also something very annoying about these TikToks to keep people attached and to keep them watching it over and over again is that they don't answer the question. So they put the questions into your mind without answering them, and you think, maybe I missed it, so you watch it again, and the algorithm boosts it. So that's not advice, that's just maybe to help you not fall into that trap. But it's very interesting, the part about it, that it's found footage. So you can use the larger piece of content and you can repurpose it to maybe from a 10-minute video you can make 10 or maybe 20 of these smaller shorts. And it's also nice to, from a marketing perspective, even if you don't want to just capture people's attention to make money off of them or something, maybe you just want to put attention on your larger piece of content, on the actual, like the nice, well-developed, well-edited piece of content. If you have nice TikToks that pull attention towards that larger piece of content, that's exactly what you want to do, I think. And there are AIs to help you do that as well. So there's this video.ai, and it's basically you just upload a large piece of content and it will automatically select the clips out of it that it thinks will be relevant or that it thinks will go viral, and it even gives a viral score with it. So this has a 70% chance to get this many views, or this has basically a virality score of the clip. And then it's also making these quick edits to it, like the text is going to come in into view at a very fast rate so that your eyes are captured. And then with a lot of these TikToks, you always see the captions are one word at a time, so that your brain always has something to look at and always something is happening on the screen, so you keep watching. And this used to take a long time. So actually also used to do a little bit of freelance work with creating TikToks for a brand. And it was the most time was in transcribing the audio and putting it one word at a time onto the screen. That was super time intensive. But now there's AI that just automatically does that for you. And it's even integrated in Premiere Pro. So you can do the transcriptions in Premiere Pro, and then you can generate the captions, and then you can export the captions in a certain file type. You can move that to a converter online. And actually, if you're interested, I can look up exactly how to do this because I remember using it, but I didn't put it in the presentation. But then you can also import it back into Premiere Pro in the normal text file type, where you can actually do the edits to make it pop into view very fast and do all these TikTok edits. And then also, of course, in this format, you have this vertical layout instead of the horizontal. And so there are a couple of ways to transform the normal 16:9, for instance, into this vertical. So first off, there's this auto reframe feature in Premiere Pro, and it will basically track the relevant content on the horizontal video to put it all in the vertical video without having to do the tracking yourself. And then there's also the generative fill. So if you have maybe a square footage and you want to make it vertical, if it's shot from a stationary camera and there's no light difference, you can just generate the top part of it and it will just blend in perfectly, and then you have a vertical image just like that. So I think that's all. Oh, here you can see how they used it, where they made the frame horizontal and larger, and they also put a desk before them. And this is a discussion we can do later if you're all done with the exercises. But for now, we can choose one of the exercises. And you can choose one, or maybe you can do all three of them. It depends. Maybe you choose one that you like to do the most first. And then if you have time, you can do the other ones. So.